Welcome back to EDH Deck Building. I am your host, Demo, and of course, Modern Horizons 3 is being spoiled. I mean, it's essentially been spoiled for like the last month or so with all the leaks that have been coming out. I think we're officially actually getting cards now, so I'm going to talk about them. This set is going to be insanely impactful, is my prediction on not just Commander, but possibly every format. There really is some crazy stuff. There's gonna be a lot that I'm gonna have to talk about eventually. I will, for the most part, wait till a lot of it comes out before I start evaluating the majority of the cards. But as I like to do, let's take a look at some of the new commanders coming out. And there is a huge Eldrazi theme in this set. Tons of Eldrazi cards coming out. I'm not the hugest fan of Eldrazi myself. I never have been. One of the things I didn't love about it was, and one of my patrons made a comment on the Discord about this, about some, good stuff, whatever card. And I'm like, that's all Eldrazi ever was. All Eldrazi for me ever was is just good stuff. There is not really a theme with Eldrazi, I find. It's just a colorless version of other cards or cards that just do a whole lot of good stuff. There is a little bit of an exile theme with Eldrazi, and then you have the Eldrazi spawn, and obviously the colorless mana. Really, other than that, of all the tribes, it's the one that just is all over the place. It's doing everything. So I don't love that about it. And also, I don't love that you just have these absurdly powerful cards that you just cast it. I mean, again, for me, I have less of an issue in Commander. When I played Modern, I really hated them because you just cast that card and you won the game typically, and I don't really love that. But anyway, we're going to have a lot of Eldrazi coming out in this set. Energy, too, I think. Like, those are two of the big themes that I've seen so far. So we got a new Ulamog. Ulamog, the Defiler, 10 mana. Legendary creature, Eldrazi 7/7. So, of course, it can be your commander, and it looks like an entirely colorless card. So this will be man. We got so many colorless commanders now. I mean, they're really becoming more and more common. And of course, with all of the help that colorless is getting, it's becoming a lot easier to make a colorless deck in the format. When you cast this spell, target opponent exiles half their library rounded up. Ouch! So all you have to do is cast it. Jeez, like the original one, you had to attack, I think, right? Yeah, you just cast this and exile your opponent, half your opponent's library. That being said, that's just kind of annoying. Again, I'm evaluating these in Commander. In Commander, that's just kind of annoying. You might end up exiling your opponent's, board wipe or his farewell or his Fairy's Protection or a really good card like that, or a win con. But mostly, I think, like, there's no way you're going to build around that. I don't think. I seriously doubt it. Wards sacrifice 2 permanents. Not bad. Certainly is annoying to have to sacrifice 2 permanents to target this guy, but easily any deck can do that because everyone's going to have 2 permanents in play at any given time. Ulamog the Defiler enters the battlefield with a number of +1/+1 counters on it equal to the greatest mana value among cards in exile. Wow. So, of course, when you cast this guy, you're exiling. I mean, you can build around that a little bit. It would be tough to do in a colorless version. I'm trying to think if there's any cards. I mean, Jester's Cap, there you go. I'll throw that out there. That would be one that you could, yep, Jester's Cap would work. You definitely want that in the deck. Go hunt. I mean, already you can just go hunt for your opponent's Expropriate or whatever, just to get rid of it. So yeah, there's something you can do. There might be a couple of cards, colorless cards, where you can go hunt through your opponent's deck, pull out their most expensive card. So again, if it's an Expropriate, what's that, 9 mana? So this guy's going to get 9 +1/+1 counters on him. Yep, that's what it looks like. I mean, obviously you can just exile some big thing when you're exiling half your opponent's library, but you can also hunt for stuff. Also get rid of their best card. So 9, that means this guy's a 16/16. So yeah, 2-hit kill. Could be a 1-hit kill, I guess. Ulamog has Annihilator X. Oh no, where X is the number of +1/+1 counters on it. Get out of here. That's ridiculous. Okay, so now this guy is just game over. That's it, game over, right? Because if this guy has Annihilator 9, I mean, even in a Commander game, again, Annihilator is game over in other formats. If you have like Annihilator 4 or 6 or anything, it's just like, okay, well, I just sacked my whole board. In Commander, it's not that bad. If you Annihilator 6 a guy, it's pretty bad, but it's not super bad. Here, it's like, man, that's probably game over for a guy. That is brutal, man. And of course, you can proliferate and put more counters on it easily. Holy man. Yeah. How many people, I wonder? I mean, there's certainly going to be people building this deck. I wonder how many decks are going to throw this in the 99 though, because this is just a insane finisher, right? I wouldn't. If I was going to put this in my deck, I would like to see it be a little harder to kill because obviously it's a removal magnet and it costs 10 mana. But you do, at the very least, get to exile half your opponent's library and then force them to sacrifice 2 permanents. So even that is not bad for your 10 mana. And then, of course, they have to waste a removal spell on it. So pretty good value for 10 mana. Oof, man. Yeah, that's crazy. I think we're likely going to see this quite a bit. A lot of people probably going to build this deck, and a lot of people probably will chuck in the 99 of whatever deck just because it's a good finisher, right? All right, let's move on to 6. Just 6. So there's no Ren here, right? 2 and a green, legendary creature, tree folk. And this is the first creature we've seen here. Like it's usually a planeswalker, right? Pretty sure this is the first time it's a creature. 2/4 with reach, of course. Whenever 6 attacks, mill 3 cards, which is like the new green thing. Like green is really big on the milling now. You may put a land card from among them into your hand. That's like the new green thing now is mill cards and then put something from it into play or into your hand. So you're milling 3 cards in mono green. Again, I'm trying to evaluate these as a commander. Obviously, milling lands into your graveyard. There's a ton you can do in green there. As long as it's your turn, non-land permanent cards in your graveyard have retrace. Okay, which is that's the land pitching one, right? You may cast permanent cards from your graveyard by discarding a land card in addition to paying their other costs. And you can do that repeatedly, which is important, right? It doesn't exile itself. There could be some, I mean, you're in mono green, but there could be some shenanigans here, right? If you have a card in your graveyard, because unlike with flashback where it exiles itself, this does not. You just cast it and then it goes back to the graveyard and you can do it again. So you can, if you have a mitt full of lands, you can just keep recasting the same spell from your graveyard. Oh man, what's that? This is kind of funny. I'll just throw this out there. What's that storm spell? People play it in their Sasasi is whatever that snake is that in order to flip it over, you need to have 7 lands in your hand, right? So it's a great card for filling your hand with lands, and it has Storm. And of course, Storm could work really good with the Retrace, right? You can get some shenanigans there with that card, I think. Yeah, you might be able to pull off some sort of funny Storm deck with this. Oh, wait. It's permanent cards in your graveyard. Oh, bummer. So you can't do that. Yeah, okay. I guess they thought of that. So Storm deck is out. It still would be a great fit in the deck, obviously. I mean, it's good value. It's good value for sure. Again, though, this very much looks like a commander that'll probably go in the 99 more of decks than it will be played as a commander. All right, moving on. Omo, Queen of Vesuva. Okay, well, we know what this is going to be about, obviously, right? Because Vesuva is all about shapeshifting. 2 and a hybrid Simic mana, so blue and green, and it is indeed a shapeshifter noble. 1/5. Whenever Omo, Queen of Vesuva, enters the battlefield or attacks, put an everything counter on each of up to 1 target land and 1 target creature. I'm guessing you're going to be changing those creatures and lands into things. Each land with an everything counter on it is every land type. Okay, in addition to its other types. So it's doing the Dryad of Elysian Grove thing, right? Or I guess Chromatic Lantern thing. Is every land type. I guess it's not Chromatic Lantern. It's actually every land type, which of course is very important, right? Each non-land creature with an everything counter on it is every creature type. Oh, man. Well, there's definitely a lot you can do there. So I think probably the first thing people are going to go after here is the Changeling Tribal sort of theme, or the, what do you call it? Like the Lord Tribal. So for example, I put any Lord in this deck, obviously all my creatures will benefit from that, right? So I put a Lord of the Unreal in here, right? Lord of the Unreal gives all my illusions +1/+1 and hexproof, I believe. And so now each everything type has every creature type. Yeah, so you're turning them into changelings essentially, right? Yeah. So now all my creatures with everything counters on them are going to have +1/+1 and hexproof. Yeah, I think that's definitely the way you're going to go. Funny enough, that's what I did and what most people did with the Morite decks. This is going to go in your Morite deck. Morite will probably go in this deck. You know, because you're doing a lot of the same thing, but that's going to be certainly the, I would say, the easy and obvious route to go here. Each land you control, though, is every land type. What could you do with that? I wonder. Everything counter on each of up to one target land, and yeah, you put it on your opponent's stuff too, so you could do something there. It might be, it's a little slow to, one at a time. If you want to, I don't know, choke or something. Choke wouldn't work because you're likely playing islands, but something like that. That would be where my head goes as far as turning maybe your opponent's lands into certain types. It's kind of slow though, so I don't know if that's great. I think definitely the Lord Tribal is what a lot of people are going to go with this for sure. All right, Pearl Ear Imperial Advisor, one white fox advisor. This is already looking very familiar. Does this not look like Light Paws? 3/4 lifelink enchantment spells you cast have affinity for auras. Oh, that's funny. So it is very similar to Light Paws, and obviously Light Paws will go in the 99 of this, and they go in the 99 of each other's, likely. So enchantment spells you cast have affinity for auras. Of course, that means it costs one less to cast for each aura you control. And obviously, your auras are enchantments. So your auras are going to cost one less for each aura you control. Okay, that's not bad. I mean, certainly goes in all the aura, whatever decks are out there are already doing auras, right? Whenever you cast an aura spell that targets a modified permanent, you control, draw a card. Oh boy. So this is making me think of the SRAM, like when SRAM came out. Again, getting back to the whole Storm thing, right? When SRAM came out, that's what people played, just cheap artifacts or equipment to draw a ton of cards. And you could do a similar thing here. Obviously, there are no 0 mana auras, but obviously you're reducing the cost here. You're not going to be able to reduce it to less than a white mana, obviously, unless it's colorless to begin with. Whenever you cast an aura spell that targets yeah, so you have to target a modified permanent. So you essentially, whenever you cast an aura spell, you're gonna sort of get a card draw, but you have to target something that it has an aura on it. I mean, you're doing auras here. Again, though, man, how good is this? Is this better than Light Paws? Definitely goes in a Light Paws deck and makes your Light Paws deck even more powerful. This, though, again, I think likely is a more 99 commander because all those decks that are already playing, the enchantresses and those kinds of cards are going to want to play this. It's not straight up better, but because of the affinity, I think it's definitely better. I mean, and it's not maybe better card draw, but it certainly is good card draw, and the affinity can be really, really good. So yeah, this is a toughie. I don't know how many people are going to go after this one. I think Light Paws is better than this. Tutoring is way better than card draw. So because Light Paws is just better than this, it will make people go after it less. And also, it obviously goes in the 99 of a lot of decks. So this is for me definitely one that goes in the 99 of more decks. All right, let's end off with Arna Kenyurud, Sky Captain, 2 white, blue, black, human knight, 4/4 flying, lifelink ward. Discard a card. Whenever a modified creature you control attacks, double the number of each kind of counter on it. Then for each non-token permanent attached to it, create a token that's a copy of that permanent attached to that creature. Holy man. Okay, so whenever a modified creature you control attacks, any modified creature, double the number of each kind of counter on it. Then for each non-token permanent attached to it. So auras and equipment, obviously. Pretty sure that's the only thing you can have attached to it. Create a token that's a copy of that permanent. So I think with this one, I mean, it's certainly good. I like that you don't have to attack with your commander. You certainly could make I'd say, decent Voltron deck with this guy because he's got the ward, flying lifelink already. When I play my commander, though, I already want a modified creature in play that I can attack with. The counters one is interesting. Obviously, you could do aura and equipment here. That's the easy route. Just doubling the aura and equipment on your stuff is pretty good. And obviously, because you're creating token copies, right? Create a token that's a copy of that permanent. Yeah, so because you're creating token copies, you can do all of that, right? You can do all the junk winder, throw a junk winder in this deck, right? Anything that's dealing with tokens. Benny Brax would be a good card draw option here, right? Maybe Ellen and Harbury's would be better because you're probably creating a whole bunch of tokens all at once. Just if you're doing that version, I think the counter version might be more interesting here. And, plus one counters, I don't know if Esper colors are the best there. You probably want green and white, right? If I was picking three colors to do a plus one counter theme, it would certainly be Bant. There are some interesting black cards there that work. However, a more interesting route to go here would be let's find some other counters, right? So we can, I mean, you're essentially proliferating here. I mean, you're doubling the number of each kind of counter on it. So it's a better proliferate, right? So that's how I would think of this. What you could do, I mean, let's throw out some interesting ideas here, right? So of course, shield counters. There's certain counters like a lifelink counter or something that it's not going to matter if you have more than one. Death touch counters, flying counters, that the ability counters aren't going to do nothing here. Shield counters would be a good one to be proliferating essentially. Going down that rabbit hole of finding interesting counters that we can pile on our creatures. You can do, man, what is there? Okay, here's a really interesting way to go. You can animate things. That's another way to go. If you can animate stuff and turn it into creatures. So, for example, a Planeswalker, and I have a patron with a Luxior deck, and I believe it actually is Esper. So that would be, this guy would be great in the 99. You animate the Planeswalker with the Luxior, and of course it turns into a creature. And now when I attack, I double the number of loyalty counters on it. So there's another interesting way to go with this. There's a couple of ways to turn Planeswalkers into creatures, actually. So that to me, other than the obvious, I just want to put lots of stuff on my creatures, finding those interesting counters that you can essentially proliferate, super proliferate, whatever you want to call it, that could be really, really interesting, I think. That'd be a really interesting way to go with this commander. It's a neat one for sure. All right, there you go. 5 new commanders from Modern Horizons 3. I'll be making a couple of these videos, not sure how many. Certainly there will be a ton to talk about with this set. There's going to be some real busted things. I've already seen some real busted things. This is, I can't remember the last time I saw a set where there were so many what I would consider chase cards that everybody's going to want for their decks. So obviously there's going to be a lot to talk about coming up in the next couple of weeks here. So stay tuned for that. You guys let me know what you think of these new commanders in the comments below. That is it for today, and thanks for tuning in.